Now, the work of the Senate, with the Democrat leader and the Republican leader, the majority and the minority leaders both doing what they need to do, the work of the Senate continues. This is the 57th time that the Senate has dealt with the National Defense Authorization Act. It is the only bill that we pass as an authorizing bill every single year, and that's, I think, highly appropriate. The number one job of the federal government is to defend the country, and we give that issue a different level of time on the Senate floor every year than we do anything else. The national security threats facing the United States today are more complex and more diverse, certainly than at any time since World War II, and maybe at any time ever. The United States hasn't seen the kind of strategic competition that we see from other places. We haven't seen the diversity of opposition that democracy faces as we see today. Frankly, our competitive advantage is not what it once was. Our advantage on the battlefield, not what it once was. Still better than anybody else, but not as overwhelmingly better than as we were at one time. For us to continue to be successful, we have to maintain that military advantage. We have to counter our potential adversaries. As Senator Round just mentioned, we have to look at the new potential of cyber warfare, being sure that our cyber advantage, our technological advantage, can't be disrupted because someone else has developed a way to get into our systems better than we've developed ways to defend them. That's not an acceptable conclusion. And so we need to work to defend an international order that has advanced our security, that has advanced our prosperity, and that our allies and partners are an intricate part of. This requires us to be sure that we're always ready. The Secretary of Defense Mattis and senior leaders of the Department of Defense have spent a lot of time crafting the National Defense Strategy. This bill makes it possible for us to pursue that strategy. This is not a bill where the members of the Senate pretend to be the master strategist of our defense, but it is a bill that allows the members of the Senate, with oversight, with responsibility to the people we work for, to be sure that that plan not only makes sense, but is supported. So the National Defense Authorization Act, there's a total of $716 billion. Half of all the discretionary money we spend on this topic, which would be another time to repeat my observation earlier that this is our number one priority as a federal government, or we wouldn't be spending half of all the discretionary money we spend on this. We need to be sure that we keep faith with those who are serving, to be sure that they have the best resources, the best equipment, the best training that is possible. Importantly, the authorization bill provides our service members with a pay raise of 2.6% pay raise. That's the biggest pay increase in a decade, and it needs to happen. It authorizes crucial multi-year procurement authority to keep our lines of defense production open. You have to have more than a 12-month commitment to build things like the FA-18 Super Hornets that are made in St. Louis. But we've been using those aircraft at a high volume of use, part of flying package after flying package. The Middle East has impacted our use of those planes and others. This is a bill that says, okay, we need to be sure that we're looking forward not just for 12 months, but for a multiple series of months that allow that line and the great men and women who work on it to keep it going. The NDAA invests in emerging technology and we do all we can to assure that our troops have what they need to make their mission successful. This bill makes significant investments in research and engineering to be sure that, again, we have the cutting edge military technologies and we have the cutting edge ways to defend those military technologies. It's hard to me when we come to this bill every year to make the point, not to make the point, that we want to be sure that Americans are never in a fair fight. We want to be sure that they always have all the advantages anytime they engage to protect our freedoms. This bill recognizes the critical importance of our allies and our partners around the globe who fight together with us, who have shared responsibilities with us. This bill provides support to counter what we see the Chinese doing in the South China Sea, or what we see the Russians doing as they look to and obviously resent the success of NATO, both economic and defense of those NATO countries. It continues the fight against ISIS and terrorists in Afghanistan. We're hopeful. I'm hopeful we've got some language in this bill where, as opposed to an annual designation that recognizes those who have been wounded and injured in the service, where we could make that an annual Silver Star Service Banner Day. I'm grateful for the work that those families do every year and hope we can continue to honor them in this bill. This would frankly be a perfect bill to honor families of those who've been injured and wounded in service, as it also recognizes the incredible service of John McCain. I can't think of anyone whose life of service to this country is more exemplary, is more determined, is more vigorous in his commitment to the people that serve, but also to the taxpayers that we work for. The John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act is named for the chairman. He's given so much of his life to our service. This is a bill that I hope appropriately honors his service, as I also hope it also appropriately does what we need to do to honor our #1 priority, the defense of America. And I would yield back, Mr. President.